Hello, everyone, and welcome to this 24th Annual Miami Jewish Film Festival, one of the world's largest and oldest Jewish cultural arts events. We want to thank all of you, our members, our sponsors, our community partners, the volunteers, all of you film lovers, and especially our presenting sponsors, the Center for the Advancement of Jewish Education and the Greater Miami Jewish Federation, for their continued support throughout all these years of the film festival. My name is Rabbi Ken Cantor, and I'm the rabbinic director of the Roots of Reform Judaism, an education and outreach program, now 13 years old. And it's a joy for me and a pleasure for me to be part of this day as we welcome the director of this extraordinary movie that I know all of you have seen and enjoyed as I did. So Csaba Bereczki, who is with us today from a very far distance from Miami, or I who live in Cincinnati, and we are delighted to be with you today, Csaba, and thank you for the beautiful work that you did for the movie Soul Exodus that we're going to be talking about together right now. So I wanted to start with just a fascinating question to me, which is, how did you get to this film subject? Where are you from? A little bit of biography for you, for all of us who have appreciated your skill and handiwork, but don't know much about you.
I was born in Romania, precisely in Transylvania. You know, it's the former Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and even today in Transylvania, it's the biggest Hungarian minority in Europe. And on the beginning of the 20th century, it was a very big Jewish community in the city where I was born. It's called Nagyvárad in Hungarian and Oradea in Romania. It's in Romanian. It's a city nowadays just on the border between Romania and Hungary. So I was born there. I grew up in Romania during the dictatorship of Ceausescu. So I made all my studies, my high school studies there. And after I moved to Hungary and later to France in Paris. So I'm a double citizenship, French and Hungarian now. And actually I'm in Hungary, in Budapest. And I made architectural studies in the beginning in Romania, and after I finished the cinema high school in Budapest. It's a very famous cinema academy. And I made studies also in Paris, in France. And after I began to work in the movie business.
So you're a citizen of the world from the sounds of it. I'm
Yes,
interested.
I say often that I'm really at home between the Black Sea and the English Channel. So I'm very European, but I love very much America too. I was a lot of I had the opportunity to work there, to make film there. Even Soul Exodus, it was more than half part. It was in North America, in New York and Canada. So I like to be a citizen of the world. It's very comfortable.
Well, it seems that way from the movie as well. So we'll talk about that in a minute or two. You've talked about your Hungarian and from Budapest and Romania and all these different ethnic backgrounds that are part of your family and personality. How were you brought up religiously, if you were, especially in the time of Ceausescu?
Secretly, you know, it was forbidden all the religions. Even the Romanian state religion, the Orthodox religion, it was not well seen, and everybody who was religious, it was at home or secretly in the churches and the synagogues, but it was not comfortable because I was child and teenager in this time, but I remember that we have a lot of problems because of the dictatorship. And to be honest, the religion, it was the last thing that that we thought about, because we are there are no food in the 80s. In the 80s, no food in Romania, and no healing in the apartments, in the houses. So it was terrible. It was in middle of the Europe, you know, and even in the 80s. So it's only 40 years ago. It was a terrible place to grow up. But in the same time, if you survive that, after you became a man, I think, and after you are more open and more tolerant, maybe.
So in your own background, did you have Jewish family, or are you coming to it as an interested community member?
Not really, because you know, in Transylvania, there are very mixed people. There are a lot of Jewish people because during the dictatorship in the 70s, Ceausescu, maybe you know that in US, but Ceausescu sold the Jewish people to Israel for $10,000 each person, and more of the Jewish community was emigrating Israel in this time, and of course. Before the communism, it was the terrible Holocaust in Hungary, and it was also a very big issue for the Jewish community. And there are a German community, there are Romanian, of course, Hungarian, so it's very mixture. And I don't know if you know, because in Transylvania, even in the 16th century, it was the first place in the world where all the religion was free. Even in France, in this time, it was for example, the Protestants were persecuted in this time. But in Transylvania, it was open and it was legal for all the religions. So you have the freedom of religion first in Europe. It was in Transylvania in the 16th century. So that's why even all this political and dictatorial problem that we grew up with, this mixture of people and the mixture of nationalities and religions made a force for the Transylvanian people to be more tolerant than a normal Romanian or a normal Hungarian or other people, you know, because we were together, and it was very normal that you speak every languages to speak the language of the others, and you respect the other's religion. So it was not an issue. So in my part, in my father part, it was my grandfather was Jewish in Romania, but it's my grandfather. So when I was born in 1966, it was not. We didn't speak about in the family, and in Europe and in Central Europe, it's very often that you didn't speak about that. I don't know why. Maybe for the Holocaust, because nobody spoke after this event, and so I cannot say that my identity it was Jewish, but my identity it was very universal, you know, and that's why even when I was very young, I was very open, and I want to travel to see the world and to see other cultures, because it was something that it was very natural in me, and
Right.
in a lot of people of my generation.
Right. Well, that explains a lot of the background for all of us. Let's talk about the film itself. And first of all, you came up with an idea. Tell us how that eventuated, that idea, and then going to the Hungarian Film Board and the funding, all those kinds of things that made what was a vision of yours, and certainly a generational part of your own family history, into a film that talks so much about Jewish issues and then the connection of the Jewish background with the people. But as I say, we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Yeah. So, the first thing, it was not very clear in my head or in my soul what I want to do. I was in some kind of searching something, and I realized that one of the more important and it's very partially tragic problem of our society today all over the world is the problem of identities, because each individual, if has a problem with his own identity, after it became a bigger problem and the bigger conflicts between people. And after we have big conflicts, even war or political issues, but everything, it came from the individual problem. The people have problem with identities. They didn't know, a lot of people now in the world, not only in Europe or in Central Europe, they have problem with identity, who I am, why I am here, what is my job, what is my background, what is my future, what is my relation with my family, with God, with etc. So it's everything. It's very complex, and it's normal that I didn't know exactly how to explain this problem. And fortunately, in my precedent films, I make films about the traditional gypsy music in Transylvania that I knew very, very well. And it was a big success, this movie. And after I realized that through the music, I can tell a story about identity. And I would like to tell a story about the Jewish identity, because I knew that it's a very universal. Everything, everybody knows what is a Jewish identity, and that's why the problem and the anti-Semitism exists even today, because everybody knows that there are something with the Jews, but nobody knows really what is it. And that's why I tried to find a way to explain in the documentary film, because I didn't want to make a fiction, because if you make a fiction about that, everybody after can say that, okay, it's a fictional story, it's nothing to do with reality, it's nothing to do with the real life, etc. So I want to find a subject, and I found the klezmer music that I didn't know very well before. But my for my very big happiness, it was when I knew the story of the klezmer music, that it's born in Russia in the before in the 18th century, etc. And after it's became a music in all the Central Europe. It's very important with the Yiddish language, that they went together, the Yiddish culture and the klezmer. And with the Second World War and the Holocaust, this music and this culture disappeared from Central Europe. And by miracle, I discovered, I realized that by miracle, with the hippies in the 70s in US, in New York and San Francisco and in other, this klezmer music, it's reborn in America. And for me, it's like a miracle, because how a third or fourth generation of people, the young people, they found their sources, musical and cultural sources with this music, the klezmer. And that's why I chose in the film after to make a reverse journey of the Jewish identity from America to the sources with the klezmer.
Right.
And for that, I had to find people who are real people, real musicians with real destinies, and very young people, fourth, fifth generation American, and that was my casting for the film. And when I found them, it was very simple. Fortunately, it was very fast and simple. And I explained to them what I want. They didn't understand the word, but they liked the adventure. And finally, they loved the film. So,
Well, thanks to you.
but it was a big adventure.
Yeah, well, and thanks to you, they had this world experience of bringing this music that they love to places as Canada, US, or all around the world. That was a wonderful story. I want to pick on a couple of things that you said just to ask you to explain even more fully. One of them was you talked about your experience with the Romanche or gypsy music, and how did that ethnic music connect with you with klezmer music? In the sense of the relationship of the two or the influence of the two. Talk about that for a little bit.
Yes, it's very interesting, and thank you for the question, because it's very important to know that, for example, the gypsies who are persecuted all over the world, but especially in Central Europe, even today, and it was always like that. But the gypsies are they are famous musicians traditionally in the world and in Central Europe, and they had this because they don't have education, musical education. They have only tradition and the virtuous technique to play music. And during the centuries, it was the gypsy community in Hungary, in Romania, in Russia, Bulgaria, in the Balkans, etc., that they preserved the music, all the traditional music of all people, of the Romanians, the Hungarians, the Serbs, the Croat, all the music, and including the klezmer. That the klezmer, after the Jewish disappear from Central Europe, this community who played klezmer, the gypsies preserved this kind of culture and music. So it's a very interesting thing, because thanks to the gypsies, we know a lot about all traditional music of all the people, not only the gypsy music, because the gypsy music is also a kind of mixture of all these musics. And and the gypsies is, that I call maybe not very very well, but I call them the poor Jews, because they are persecuted too, like the Jews, and they have and they had a very hard life and very hard destinies during the centuries. But this kind of natural approach to the music, and this kind of virtual play that they did, they conserved a lot of traditional music, very ancient traditional music, the klezmer too, so the Jewish music too. And that's why I discovered that through the gypsies you can tell a story about what is the traditional music and what is the gypsy destiny in Central Europe. And after it came the idea automatically that I have to do something about the Jewish question through the music.
Well, certainly the experience of the gypsy culture at the time of the Nazis and the Holocaust was parallel in so many ways to the death of the Jewish community and the suffering of the Jewish community. You had one comment early on in the film that I found very powerful, which was that this film represented, and klezmer music represents, the culture of oppression. And certainly the gypsy peoples, the Jewish people, and LGBT people. I mean, we could go through all this. This isn't a film about the Holocaust, but clearly It's talked about in a number of times in the film that maybe without the experience of the Holocaust, this film would be less poignant than it is for us today. So I want to talk a little practical for a moment. You come up with this idea that this very powerful message you want to bring to viewers. You have an idea of how to do it, and then you go to the film industry. And what kind of response did you get from them when you said this was the movie you wanted to make and you wanted them to help fund it?
In, in the first time, I had all negative response, of course, because nobody, nobody understood what is it. And I tried to explain a very simple things, very human things, that all the people, not only the Jews, but all the people, the best mirror of the soul of the people is the music. That's why the pop music, the rock music, and the hip hop, everything, it's very popular, because it's the most direct way of the soul of the human soul. And for my precedent film, that it's called Song of Lives, the Gypsy film, I tried to convince people. It was not a very expensive film, so it was. I don't need. I didn't need $1 million, but I need some money for make it. And I convinced them with my precedent film, with my Gypsy film, and I tried to explain very simply that it's a risk. It's every movie, it's a risk. Everything that we do in the life, it's a risk. But I think that it will be something very deep and very original in the end, because I will tell a story an inappropriate way that nobody's it's accepted this kind of storytelling, because for me the music it's one of the main character of the film, and I was persuaded, and I was very sure that through the music I can tell everything with humor and not with a tragic tone, but I can tell a lot of truth, and I can show what is it today to be Jewish, and to be not only Jewish, but because they are in the end of the film, one of my protagonists said that everybody have his inner Jew. You have to find your Jew in you. So it's a song also, and it's true, because it's not only it's a philosophical thing for me, and that's why I want to do this film. And it was not clear even for my musicians. They said, "But why you want to travel from America to Eastern Europe to tell this story? It's nonsense, etc." But when they arrived in the Eastern Europe, where the ancestors came, so they realized that something happens in them, and something happens in the film too.
Well, there were some marvelous moments, many of them in the film. I want to focus now a little bit on the movie itself, and not just the process. You had a marvelous group of musicians and actors, or participants, the people who were the leads of the film. Now they seem to be a group that you found ready-made rather than that you put them together themselves. Is that fair to say?
They know each other, but they don't play always together. But they know each other.
Right. Well, some are right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Daniel Kahn, who was from Michigan, he was the main protagonist of the film. That I found him first in Berlin, because now he lives in Berlin, in Germany. And when I told him that which kind of film I want to do with his music and for the music of the others, and the main thing it was, I need a group of very young people, who are good musicians, and they have this destiny and this story in them. It's in real. That's why I didn't make fiction. So
I guess the reason for my question, I'm sorry for interrupting. Each of these characters had wonderful stories that were, and philosophies or even theologies that were unique to themselves. And one was a Zionist, and one was certainly a neutral, if not a non-believer in Israel as a state, and one was
yes.
very traditional and so on. So my question is, did you come into it saying, these are the characters I want in this film to illustrate the message that you talked about a few moments ago? Or when you found these musicians, that's the way they believed, and it kind of worked together, coalesced into this message that you had intended it to be at the beginning?
No, in the beginning, I want to find good musicians, good klezmer musicians, who are not living in the same place that they were born, and even because they are, for me, it was very important to be open, and the others to be open to the world too. That and it's very interesting thing, because each of them, minus one who was Russian, who were born in Russia, but the others are all born in US and all quit the US for different reasons, but for political and cultural reasons too. And in the beginning I didn't know that. In the beginning I want to find a group of musicians that they knew each other, and they have a special story, why he live in Scotland, why he live in France, why he live in Germany, etc., etc. And after it was clear during the shooting of the film that they are very close to each other, but they have different cultural backgrounds, even this group. And it was me, the sixth person, that called me. They called me in the end of the shooting, that the six Nazarov brothers, because I had my own story too, but I didn't want to show my story. I want to show my story through their stories. That's why it was very personal for me, and I think that they sent it. They sent that they felt that I'm in the same way.
Yeah, well, it was clearly very personal to them. That was one of the things you could watch as the movie progressed. The first scene with the musicians at the summer camp, and surrounded by all these people and the music, and you could see how each one became more invested in their own stories and in the message that you were trying to share as the film progressed. One of the comments that you made that was made in the film, I should say, is that I couldn't leave New York. I just left America.
Yeah.
And the idea being that I brought New York with me. So talk for a little bit as a non-American person who's experienced America, obviously, as you have. Talk about the role of New York in this film.
Yeah. New York, even that you are not a New Yorker, but you are a cosmopolitan guy from Eastern Europe. For us, during the 80s, America, and especially New York, it was the promised land. When we were teenager, and what is very funny, that thanks to the movies, we knew New York. Even when I was 16, I never moved from my street, not from my town, from my street. But I knew New York. I know what is Brooklyn, what is Manhattan, which restaurant, which club, where is it, the bridges. We know everything. And when I was for the first time in New York, it was that I came back from a long time. I came back to New York. So New York, I think in our days, New York is like the ancient Roman Empire. It's the middle of the world, and the danger is that it could be the same destiny, like the Roman Empire, falling the Roman Empire, the falling New York, and falling U.S. And I'm sure that it's. I hope that it will be not like that, but I feel a little danger, and it's true. I was in New York in the 90s for the first time, and it's crystal clear that it was changed a lot, and so it's not the promised land that we thought when we were children in Romania, and I heard the same thing about the Born New Yorkers, and in the film also we saw. So I think that it's a problem. It's a huge problem because it's not only New York. Because I'm sure that if in New York there a disaster, look at 9/11. It will be a disaster in all the world, in the same hour, but tomorrow for sure. So that's why it's very important. I cannot say that I'm pro-American. I'm not anti-American for sure, but I'm hopeful that we can keep, and Americans can keep America in the right way, because otherwise all the world it's finished. It's not like another country or another city, and it's a special city. It's a special place. It's not a city. It's a special place.
Sure. Well, you described the polycultural life you've lived and all these different countries you've lived in and experiences and so on. I'm interested. Tell us, where has the film played around the world? Where has it played, and has the response as it's played in America, how different is it than perhaps if it's played in Hungary or Romania or any other parts of the world? Talk a little bit about the perception of that film around the world.
Thank you for the question, because it was one of the most important issue for me, because I have some doubts about I was sure that in America it will be the American will understand the film, but I was not sure that in Europe or in Central Europe or in other parts of the world they will understand the issue of the film, because it's my goal. It was my goal to make the film. It was not tell the story only the Jewish identity, but through the Jewish identity and the music to show a mirror to everybody that it's his own identity. It's the question and the issue. And for my big and very grateful surprise, it was that I talk with some how can I say, maybe not anti-Semitic people, but close to that they don't like Jews. And when he saw the film, he came to me and he said, thank you for this film, because I realized that I was very superficial and stupid, and I didn't understand anything. And now I understand my identity. It is a Jewish identity. But so it was very well seen about from the people in Romania, in Hungary, and in other countries. It was not in Asia for the time, but it was a lot of festivals. So it was in Poland. In Poland, it was very well known. I won a prize there. So it was a little satisfaction. It's not the prize; it's important, but that you have this contact with the people, this very sincere contact, and you feel, because every filmmaker and feel the public. If I'm in the theater after a screening, you feel that the film it's passed to the public or not, and I felt that very often. Fortunately,
there's a wonderful story about the American Broadway musical Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah.
And the United States Information Agency decided that it was important to send that particular musical around the world. So it began in Russia and then went into Central Europe and then into Western Europe and then and it ended in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite stories about that is one of the Tokyo newspapers wrote this beautiful review of Fiddler on the Roof, which of course is based on Sholem Aleichem's stories, the Central European Jewish writer talking about Europe in the 19th century, and in this case, the beginning of the 20th century. And the reviewer said, "We cannot understand why Fiddler on the Roof is so popular in America because the story is so Japanese." And I think the message from that, and I pass that to you, Csaba, is the message of this movie, which you've already said earned you an award in Poland and has played well around the world. The story is not just Jewish, as you said. Talk about how that story is international and multicultural and not just the music of one people or one ethnicity.
I think that it's in the film. So the public who's seen the film, they have to feel that because it's a pretext. It's only a leitmotiv to show this Jewish story and the Jewish music, but the way that they talk about their lives, their journeys, their travels, their music. So it's very universal because everybody deeply inside feel that it's something wrong when you are very nationalist and very closed to you. I think that it's true for the Jewish nationalists too, the Orthodox, who are very, very close, and nobody from the exterior, nobody from the other side. And that's why I think that it was touched the other people who didn't know a word about the film and about the Jewish, that because they felt inside, deeply inside them, that it's something maybe true in this film.
You mentioned a little bit ago about the friend of yours or the acquaintance of yours who considered himself anti-Semitic, or maybe he didn't, but he felt that way. And then after seeing the movie, came to you and thanked you for this film and how it changed his perspectives. In the preparation that you made in this movie, what did you learn, and how perhaps is your thinking different now, having made the movie, than it might have been before, growing up as you did in Romania and Hungary and so on? Talk a little bit about that.
Really, I don't know exactly, but I have two fears, because I'm not considered like a real Jew in the Jewish community. One of my fear, it was that the real Jews, they will said, why you tell this story? What you have with this story? And the second fear, it was that the non-Jewish and they will said, why you make a film about the Jews, because we have a lot of problems, a lot of subjects here, and once again we will have to see a film about Jews. But after that they see the film and they said, it's okay, pardon, apologize, okay, we understood. But even before the shooting, it was a question for me, because it was a lot of people very close to me that said, why you want to make this film? And I said, because it's important for me personally, because even for me, in the end of the film, I was richer in my identity, because I didn't understand and I didn't feel things before. I had to do this film to be clear for me too. So it was not a film that I know everything and I will show you what I know, because I know very well. I didn't know. I know very little things about things. I only feel, and that's why I think that a filmmaker or an artist, if he feels something, he have to show, even that it's not a big art film or a big movie, but we have to try to show, because in this way you can understand yourself too.
Right. Has Soul Exodus played in Israel?
No, and that it's very, 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 very good question, and very, because we send, of course, to the Haifa and Jerusalem Film Festival, and my friends from Israel said, you know, you have no chance for that, because the Israeli people don't like the klezmer, because they said klezmer it's not a Jewish music. Klezmer is it's a very old German, or I don't know which kind of music, and it's not our culture. So it's very interesting, and I'm very unhappy for that, because I'm sure that one day I will show the film after this COVID era. I will show the film one day in Israel, and I am sure that the impact it will be the same that I had in other countries. So the people said, okay, we didn't understand what you want to say, but in Israel the problem it was not the film, it was the klezmer, and they said klezmer is not our music. So it's very strange.
Interesting. Well, of course, Israel is as much a combination of international Jewish identities and Arab community and Christian community and so on. Certainly. So that's an interesting response, that they would say it's not our culture. It certainly isn't Middle Eastern in the sense of Arabic music or the music styles of that part of the world, but it's hard to say it's not a Jewish music. But anyway, I guess that's the response you got.
It was not selected to the festival, you know.
Right. No,
the
I hear it.
Selection, it was go out.
Did you get any anti-Semitic response to the film?
No.
Anywhere. Not just I don't mean Israel, but I mean anywhere.
No. Me personally, I didn't read a line about that, and I didn't met people who so maybe it exists behind, I don't know where, but I didn't, and I was prepared for that, and I prepared, you know, because you are a little bit paranoid, and I I tried to prepare myself to this kind of attacks, but it was no. It's
You had a comment that was one of my favorite lines that says, "Thinking about what it means to be a Jew, then you're a Jew."
Yes, if you think a lot about that, probably you are a Jew. Yeah, and I think it's deeply true.
It's a wonderful message. How would you expand on that message for those of us who watched the movie and loved it as much as we did?
How I didn't hear.
How would you broaden that message, just to think of it in a meta sense, in a greater sense than simply the poignancy of those words?
I think that the most simple thing is you have to be like a child. You have to be open, and don't think about the other, like the other nation or another language people. You have to be open and smile like the children. And if you are open, if you lose this kind of childness in you, it's a problem, because it's not only a practical problem, but it's I'm sure that it's the roots of all the illness after, the mental and body illness. You have to be open, and you have to see each people in the world that are like other people like you, and this is the only message that I have to send.
Very important message. Let's talk a little bit about the lead actor performers of the film, because they each were so extraordinarily different, and yet were able to build a relationship together and became this group of five now with you, expert, in addition to their group. You know, Daniel Kahn made a comment in there, get ready for your inner emigration. And obviously the Jewish people, the Hungarian, all of these ethnic groups about which you've spoken already in our conversation today, have been experienced of leaving from one land and going to another, whether it's within Central Europe or coming from Central Europe to America, or in your case, all over Central and Western Europe. Talk a little bit about that, the role of immigration and uh, how that influenced these people, and then focus, if you could, on the collection of these musicians, because they were so different from each other, and yet they were able to make harmony, not just in music, but in relationships.
Listen, I'm an immigrant too, so I'm used to say that I'm a born immigrant, because when I was very little, I want to go in the other countries, but not for the political reason, because I was child. I have this curiosity and feeling that I want to live, not only to travel in other part of the world. And after, from the political issues and the life, etc., you became a real immigrant with all the problems and all the positive things. I think that if you are an immigrant, and you are you are very don't forget that if you are an immigrant, you have to be more open than the people that you go, the country that you go. You have to be very open for the other culture, and don't expect that the other country will be open to you because you are a stranger. But if they see that you are very open and very full of love of this knowledge that for the other people, that it's a kind of being, it's real a kind of existence. If you are a migrant, if you began very young to be an immigrant in all the way of all the sense of the word, you will be always an immigrant, and it's not a disaster, not a tragedy. It didn't seem that you have no roots, because I have very strong roots from Transylvania, from a very strong cultural background. But it was richer after that. I traveled and I lived in other countries. And for the guys, from the musicians in the film, it was the same. Four of them, it was born in US, in Los Angeles, Detroit, New York, etc. After they move in all the other territories in Scotland, Hungary, Berlin, France, etc. So it was our common language, if you want, this immigrant feeling. And the second, it was the music and the film, of course, this our common story.
Right.
But if you meet an immigrant, if you are an immigrant and you meet another guy, an immigrant, you will recognize him very, very quickly, because we have the same view of the world and same feelings.
Right. No, that's very powerful, and you're exactly right. As you were working with these wonderfully talented people, how did you see them change from the beginning of the film? Meaning, this is your core musicians. Because I remember watching the movie and identifying, well, he's someone who believes in this, and he's someone who believes in that, and so on and so on. Did the working together change the feelings of the group as they learned about the rest of the group in their circles?
Yes, I think because in the beginning we began in Canada to the shoot, and after we continue in New York, and after that we go in Europe. We went to Europe, to France, Germany, Hungary, Romania, and former Russia in Moldavia. And the change was even in our connection, in our relations, because in the beginning, because they are musicians, they are free people. And in the beginning, they didn't want to make what I requested, what I wanted to do in this film. They said, okay, you have this idea in your head that we will tell our identity through the world. We go from America to the land of our ancestors, etc. But it's your idea, and we are not sure that it's a good idea. And I answered quickly that it's excuse me, it's not my story, because in your music, it's told the same story. So you are very, very deeply involved but you don't like to talk about, because you are a musician. you make music of from that. I make films, and I said my instrument is the camera, your instrument is the violin and harmonica, and we make the same thing. And even if you don't want to speak about that, it doesn't matter, because in your music all is told already, and we will make this journey from America to Russia. So this reverse exodus. That's why the film it's called Soul Exodus, because it's the reverse exodus from America to the sources, to the roots. And in the end, that I mentioned before, in the end, everybody changed a little bit because they were touched from their stories. And
Yeah,
me
you
too,
can
me
certainly
too.
see
And
that in the
it
film.
was for me also.
Yeah.
I changed a lot.
You kind of got to where I was hoping to conclude in the next couple of minutes, but talk about the title of the film, Soul Exodus. Obviously, the literal words I understand, but you have such a depth in the rest of the movie. I'm sure there was profundity in those words as well. Share with us some of that.
Uh, I'm I don't want to be very pretentious, but I'm good in titles. I find very well very quickly the title, but here it was not a research. I thought about my film. I thought what I want to show, what I want to tell for the people, and it was clear that through what is the music is the voice of the souls. So it's soul, and the Exodus. It was the Exodus from the Jews to America in the beginning at the end of the 19th century, etc. The big Exodus, and I will said I will tell a story through the klezmer to the reverse in the reverse way. So it's soul exodus, but it's not from east to west, but to west, from west to east.
In each of the locations in which you filmed, there was a marvelous sense of community that the musicians created by their own spirit and their own talent and enthusiasm. I mean, the sequence on Coney Island on the beach, or in the bar in a Central European village. I mean, all this sort of experience, the music helped to create a community. What kind of community are you hoping was built or would be built as your film is shown around the world?
This is a very difficult question, because really it's very difficult in our days to believe that art or movies or music can change the way of the humanity, because there are a lot of bad things and a lot of wrong directions that humanity go. And it's very hard to believe that we can change, but we have one life, and each of us have to try to change the world in our way. In the first place, you have to change yourself in the good way, and after maybe the world will change with you. I don't believe in the big political changes and the big religion changes that we will speak to the crowds and we will change the world with good phrases and big ideas and with the crowds. I believe in an individual, in each individual human being, that if he is kept, he's able to change and to be more human and less idiot that he was in his childness, maybe the world it will be changed. So our goal with the movies and with the arts is that.
I think that could be no more beautiful ending than to leave it there, except to say thank you to you, Csaba, for this film. I'm
Thank you, Rabbi.
excited to see what are the next movies in that creative mind of yours, as you've talked about these ethnic minorities and the music that they brought. You could just do that thematically and you'd have enough movies to go for decades with talented people of all sorts of ethnicities. But let me just thank you again for being with us now for this conversation. And thank you for this movie that moved every one of us who watched it. And I want to thank all of the sponsors and community partners and volunteers, all of you film lovers who are watching this conversation today, and especially, as I mentioned at the beginning, the presenting sponsors, the Center for the Advancement of Jewish Education, and indeed the Greater Miami Jewish Federation for the support of this great film festival, now in the 24th annual iteration of the Miami Jewish Film Festival. So Csaba, thank you to you.
Thank you
You're
very much.
way late, keeping up late hours tonight for this time together. And to all of you, I hope you enjoyed the movie and were as moved as much as I was, and that in a small way, I was able to ask some of the questions you were thinking and hoping that Csaba would get to share with us in our talk today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.